by the quiz's cheerful assertion that I was already toast. Toast is the food of invalids and the food of comfort. The food I turn to when I am sick, when I am sad, when someone I love is either of those things. Cut into strips, soaked in butter, unchallenging, warm, browned, delicious thanks to the Maillard reaction. Why is it also a negative word? Why, you're toast? Toasting usually makes things better. Burning makes them worse. But this quiz result was clearly negative. You're done. Crisped, eaten, chewed up, swallowed. Sounded about right. I spent more than 2 years as Brad's primary caregiver during the long, intense crisis phase of his illness. In the years since, as he's endured disability and chronic illness, my responsibilities have ebbed and flowed, depending on his health. During the long crisis, I was so overwhelmed and eventually so burned out that sometimes I fantasized about simply turning around while driving to the pharmacy or the grocery store, heading to the airport instead, and buying a ticket on any plane going somewhere semi-tropical. I was 42 when Brad was diagnosed, and I joked to friends that I was having a very inconvenient midlife crisis. But under the dark humor lay a lot of truth. What stopped me from abandoning my life was the thought of the fallout, likely endangering my husband's life, shocking our friends, further traumatizing our already fragile children, inducing lifelong guilt by becoming a person who left her husband at his lowest point, alienating everyone I've ever loved, everyone who has ever loved me. I stayed. Brad is no longer desperately ill, but he was permanently disabled by the after effects of his treatment. We've worked hard, often painfully, to rebuild our marriage and our lives. It's still a work in progress. In the long ordeal of his illness, his survival was the focus. If cancer is often described as a battle, a metaphor I dislike, since it's hardly a fair fight, I feel like my life was collateral damage. This book is the story of that toll and of how heavily the weight of caregiving can fall, especially on women. Nobody's caregiving experience will quite look like mine, and this book isn't a traditional how-to resource, but I hope it can prepare people emotionally for the challenges of caregiving or offer solace in the thick of it. Our culture undervalues caring and exploits those who care for others, shunting these tasks disproportionately onto women, people of color, and other marginalized groups, often paying them no more than minimum wage for their efforts. And society often frames family caregiving as both priceless and worthless, as Evelyn Nakano Glenn puts it in her 2010 book, Forced to Care. In other words, sentimentalized narratives around caregiving may tell us the work we do is an invaluable gift that is its own reward, as in the very title of the recent book, Priceless Caregiving, Stories of Elder Care Success, Courage, and Strength. Yet the work of most family caregivers receives little financial support and so lacks economic worth. Most family caregivers are never paid, and indeed most take a profound financial hit due to a lack of societal support or of adequate work leave for their role. In truth, however, the work we do has extraordinary economic and social value. Rethinking caring labor in all of its forms and compensating that labor adequately is a major issue for contemporary feminism and social justice, one that the coronavirus pandemic laid particularly bare. This book seeks to bring to light the often hidden phenomenon of caregiving, its invisibility, how American healthcare takes it for granted, how sexism and racism